Here we are, going live on the Junius Maltby channel. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me this evening, me and Mrs. Maltby, and the end cat that's running off somewhere. I got a funny story I'll tell as the audience gathers and fills in before we get into the content, before we get into the material tonight. It's going to be a fun live, couple things to discuss, perhaps some controversy. I'll share with you some developments, some things that I've been in discussions with as far as the happenings, the goings-ons with others out there in the community today. Been in communications with several individuals and discussing various events, certain facts pertaining to movements of money that we're observing. Very interesting developments. So I'll share some of those with you guys as well. It's going to be fun. Some of you might not care for some of the content we cover, but you know that's the nature of an extemporaneous rambling live here on the Junius Maltby channel. You always have the option of exiting out if you don't choose to stick around and be here. Let's do a quick sound check now that the audience is filling up. We've got Belang P. Greetings. He's fourth in the chat with a comment. Welcome, Belang. We got the new Civil Defense, Haska Sun, Craig Turner, Physics Hypernova, Pudenda Johnson, Carlos Danger, Suad01. Welcome all. Glad you guys are here in the discussion today. We'll talk about several things. Real quick, the Rush Pabst throwing down immediately with my XRP is going to the moon. It is, Rush. It is. It's doing quite well. Up 86% on the year. It's up 100%, I believe, since the lows of the year or more. I think it's even. Yeah, it's more than 100% now, I believe, over on the course. If you go off the March lows, doing quite well. A lot of movement. Highlander stacking. Thank you as well for the super chat. Welcome. You guys are throwing down early. We haven't even gotten into the content. I haven't even got to tell my disgusting story yet. I'm going to wait till everyone fills in so they can hear the disgusting story that Mrs. Maltby caused. Yes, I'm going to blame her because, of course, this is something she would do. You know what, though? When it first happened, I thought almost, well, I'll tell you the story. It could have been me. I could have done it as well, but it happened to be her fault this time. So we'll tell that story. We're going to talk about some crypto stuff tonight. Hopefully that doesn't bore you guys. We're also going to talk about JP Morgan calling for some severe economic contractions. And then we'll look at just some ideological discussions and debates that various people have on some of what we've already referred to as the happenings, the goings-ons, things that are happening out there. But yeah, I'm going to touch on XRP for sure because I think if you've been on this channel for any length of time, you know, with full disclosure, it's one of two of the only blockchain crypto projects that I participate in. The other one being Aurus Gold, because it's linked to gold, of course. How could I not be a participant in that project? And I've shared with you some of the discussions there. But yes, we're going to discuss some crypto stuff today. First, let's get to the growth story. Then we'll talk about the market, and then we'll look at the other topics. So after dinner tonight, I made a pulled pork shoulder. It was really good. I think it's the first time I've ever made one of these. It was a big pork shoulder with some apple cider vinegar, some mustard, some Worcester sauce. A good recipe I found on allrecipes.com. I threw this big shoulder in the crock pot, cooked it for like 6 hours today, and it was wonderful. Made pulled pork sandwiches. Mrs. Maltby loved it. Had some corn with that and on some little rolls. And it was just a hearty little meal. And at the end of it, we were doing dishes together, and I mentioned she had showed me a bowl, and she's like, "Oh, we're out of chocolate chip cookies," and I could see she was a little bit down because of that. And I said, "Well, I'll just make. I could make more tonight." She's like, "But you're out of the ingredients." I said, "No, last time I was at the store, I bought 2 bags of chocolate chips because I knew you would want me to make my famous chocolate chip cookies again, because I have a knack for whipping up some pretty good chocolate chip cookies." Oh man, Rush Pabst, here he goes again. He goes, "No, but really, my XRP. So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to all that. So I appreciate it, Rush. I really do. Thank you. It's very much that's chocolate chip cookie donations, so I can buy more chocolate chips for Mrs. Maltby and keep her happy. I'll read your full comment after this quick story. So I told her, yes, I got the ingredients, and she was so happy. She was excited. So I go over and I preheat the oven to 365, which is an ideal temperature to bake chocolate chip cookies at. So while the oven's preheating, I'm gathering the ingredients. I've got the flour set out, the brown sugar, the regular sugar, the vanilla extract. I get the butter heated up and softened in the microwave. I've got my dishes out. And all of a sudden, like a baseball bat to the face, comes this aroma, this odor, this stank. And I knew it was emanating from someplace hot, someplace that, well, we were probably preheating or cooking. So I look over at the oven and I go, what is that smell? And I open the oven, and inside is a little glass dish filled with dried kitty food, cat food. And as you know, cat food is made out of God knows what, ground up meats of chicken livers and turkey necks and fish guts. And of course, it's dried cat food. And out wafting from the oven comes this putrid odor of cooking cat food. The smoke detector didn't go off. It wasn't burning. It wasn't making smoke. It was just essentially baking dried cat food, roasting cat food.
Do you know why I put cat food in the oven, though?
Tell them why you put the cat food in the oven.
Because the Ann cat, she eats everything that you leave out on the counters, and I have a sick kitty. So the sick kitty didn't eat the dry food, and I didn't want it to go to waste. So I was like, where can I put this where the Ann cat won't get it? So I just put it in the oven.
So she put the cat food in the oven
I forgot
to hide it from the Ann cat, and she forgot it was in there, never fed it to her later, which was her plan. So I preheated the cat food. I had to air out the house, open all the windows. And yes, Belang, she put the cat food in the oven in order to hide it from the other cat with the intent of going back and getting it later. Oh my goodness. Rush Pabst throwing down again. Google Mississippi pot roast. Thank me later. I will. Write that down.
Thank you, Rush.
Write that down. Mississippi pot roast.
That sounds like it's going to be...
It's good. It's Southern.
Okay.
Anytime Southern, it's got to be good.
Okay.
Write it down.
I'm normally not a crazy cat lady like that. It just so happened to be in the oven. I didn't know where to put it. I just didn't know where to put it.
And then I'm going to go back to Rush's other super chat comment. He says, no, but really my XRPs, so we got to hear about BlackRock trying to prevent us from owning gold because my Bitcoin is going to replace it. LOL. There's a lot of interesting situation with BlackRock, and you all know they're just an arm of essentially the deep state, the dark state. Very corrupt institution, I would imagine, based on their connections and ties. So that's the comic relief for this evening. You might get some more if I accidentally stumble upon some.
You know what, though? The name of the cat food is called Solid Gold.
Oh, that's right. Our kitties eat solid gold cat food.
Yeah.
It's very fitting for them. All right, so let's move on to the stories. We'll get back to this. This was a neat little slideshow we'll put on here in a minute. But back to the news here. JP Morgan. There's a lot of stuff to cover here. JP Morgan says this winter will be grim. They're warning the economy will contract again. Now, of course, they're blaming this on the plague, the China plague, and this is not something new or news. I think most of you and myself see the state of things and how bad it really is. I talked to some friends recently, and I said, it's far worse than we believe. It's actually really bad. The economy's been torpedoed. It's been destroyed. It's eviscerated. One of the viewers and contributors, one of the reporters in the field for this channel, good close friend of mine, you see him in the comments often, Paladin Stacker, he was on a flight recently, and he was in a very, very large airport in the United States, and he put on his phone, he just did a recording of it, he just filmed himself walking through the airport to show me how vacant. Oh, there he is. He's actually in the chat right now. How you doing, Paladin? I'm telling your story. I'm not disclosing any info, believe me. Your OPSEC is secure, my friend. And as he's walking through, he shows me that the airport is empty. This is a major airport in the United States, one of the largest, and there's nobody there. Nobody. If you think of all of the industries, the hotel industries, the restaurant industries, the number of employments and employees that are now eliminated, I heard recently that local banks have let go of almost all of their staff that works the main banking foyers, your loan executives, the people that work the tills, because no one's coming in, no one can come in, all of the restrictions. So essentially, I mean, the velocity of money, of employment, commerce, goods and services, the flow of everything is stopping, and now they're trying to do it again. They're doing another lockdown. And Rush Paps with another super chat saying, one other thing, Google Galgatron, how China can kill Bitcoin, avoid proof of work at all costs. Rush Paps, excellent point. Galgatron writes an amazing blog, and believe me, I am a frequent of his writings. Galgatron does phenomenal writing. If for anyone who's into that or likes to discuss or read those types of materials, especially on cryptocurrencies, some of the facts and debates surrounding it, he's kind of a myth buster, really good at pointing out some logic and data, and good discussion pieces, a lot of knowledge there. Galgatron, phenomenal blog if you're into reading that kind of thing. So thanks, Rush, for including that. I don't think I've ever thought to recommend Galgatron, his blog here on the channel, but yeah, it's a good place to find some excellent material. I've actually forwarded a lot of his articles to friends who had questions about certain topics when it came to cryptocurrencies. But yes, the economy is torpedoed. I mean, if you want to add any personal insights, stories, observations in the comments, things you guys are noticing in your particular regions, and I know this is kind of an international channel. There's a lot of people here that I know are from New Zealand, Australia, Germany, the UK, all over the place. North and South America, we've got a lot of Canadian viewers. I know the economies everywhere are suffering tremendously, and yes, it's going to get a lot worse. I mean, come on now. We spent almost a decade discussing the debt, the growing debt, the debasement, devaluations of currencies, and now we see the consequences of that kind of starting to manifest in different areas. And I mean, you could really get conspiratorial on how this has been systematically orchestrated, if it was a controlled demolition, if some of this was done on purpose to create some type of reliance on the state so that they can come in and offer solutions and kind of nationalize things, create more demand for socialism, things like that, and really usher in communism, not allowing for any good crisis to go to waste, as they like to say. Belang says, notice the Treasury has a $15 trillion war chest at the New York Fed they can mobilize, yet there will be no extension of PPP. Curious why? Very curious as to why. And Belang, you bring up the Fed and the Treasury. It's interesting to see how that relationship is changing and has changed with what's going on. And then, as we brought up earlier in a video a couple of days ago, you've all seen one of the potential nominations for the Treasury is a former Fed chairman, Janet Yellen, who might assume that position. So, again, it's the same club, the same people at the helm doing the same things. And it's going to be catastrophic. I truly believe it is catastrophic at this point. I think we're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of things happen. The key is, with some of this information we're going to go over tonight, try to keep an open mind. I think it's going to be nice at this point to have irons in various parts of the fire as far as protecting your wealth, preparing to kind of come out of this, come on the other end, eliminating dollar exposure, and somehow trying to make the best of a bad situation. I mean, they're literally hurling lemons at us. It's going to be our job to make lemonade out of it by adding some sugar. And that sugar is going to come in the form of gold, silver, and yes, I do believe a little bit of crypto ingredients into that recipe. So the pandemic's intensifying. We've heard that. We've seen discussions of that. Apparently, this great plague. And we're seeing discussions about how the economy is getting worse. J.P. Morgan is saying that it's about to shrink. They're talking about the situation, the current plague intensifying, causing more problems. And we got to, let's keep going here. On Friday, J.P. Morgan became the first Wall Street bank to warn. This is the first Wall Street bank to warn that GDP will turn negative by early next year as Americans wait for vaccines to get distributed. And a friend of mine, I think it was actually Paladin when we were discussing this stuff, we were talking about nations and GDP to debt ratios. And I think it was him who brought up a point that no nation with a debt to GDP over 90% has ever survived. They've always been eliminated. They've always collapsed. Ours is 130%. 130%. So it's an irrecoverable position. We are in a state of decay, a state of deterioration. The economy is, for lack of a better word, it is in a state of collapse. It's kind of like a very slow motion bus going off a cliff. We're sitting in the bus, but it's happening very, very slowly. If you've ever seen Inception, the movie Inception, if you remember the scene where they hurl, I think it's off a bridge and they're in that vehicle, but they're in like the third level of sleep. I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie or follow it, you'll kind of get this analogy. And it takes a very long time for the bus to hit the water and for them to wake up out of their sleep because they're in like this third level of sleep and there's a lot of other things going on within their dreams. The point is, it's almost as if we're in Inception and we're in that vehicle hurling off the bridge and it's just taking a very long time and we're allowed moments to do a lot of things and execute certain tasks and actions, all in the while within split seconds of hitting the water, if you know what I mean. It's happening, but it just we haven't hit the water yet. We're not submerged yet. It's just in the process. We're dropping. And I think that's actually what they call it in the movie, the drop, when they drop you to wake you out of the sleep. Interesting movie, entertaining. But again, we're in that state of crisis, I believe, where we have the ability, but the time's running out. Time is running out to make the moves. And I wish I had all of the things up that I wanted to show you guys and read to you, but I do not. So I'll be scrolling around a little bit, going through various charts and things that might not be displayed on the screen as we discuss these things. But again, this is the backdrop here of this story and of all the things that we discuss is ultimately what's going on, the state of the economy. We know it's going down. We know what they're going to try to do to get out of it. Print dollars, stimulus, inject more stimulus, come up with $7 trillion green deals. That's what Biden wants to do. They want to eliminate student loan debt, which of course someone has to absorb that. You can't just say that debt no longer needs to be paid. There's going to be a cost to that. It's going to have to go through Congress. There's going to be money shuffled around the books, if you know what I mean. So eventually, they're going to debase and devalue currency. And people are running from it. People are fleeing from it. And as we've all seen and as we all know, gold and silver have been the mainstays for us, and rightfully so. Money for 10,000 years. The ultimate insurance, it's my ultimate escape plan if I ever make it big in any other area, which I doubt that'll ever happen. Maybe. It's possible. But if I do make it in some other areas, I would like to secure a good position in metals. I think that's what all of us try to do here as far as wealth preservation. There's other things we've discussed in this channel over the years, purchasing a good piece of land where you can grow things, trying to attain some measure of independent living, where you can provide for yourself, kind of be somewhat more rural, protected, have a good community, things like that. Of course, this is a weekend, so metals weren't trading. We're just checking in real quick. The last price quotes, $18.70 for gold, $24 for silver. You can see their performance over here, 6 months, 1 year, and 5 years for gold. Silver, you've got the 6 month, 1 year, 5 year, and 20 year for silver down here. You can see the percentages there. We've seen their averages for the years. Let's go real quick down here. We'll just check in. We're still sitting around a 10.7 average for gold. And for 2020, about 23% on the year still, with a lot of potential with what's coming, what's going on for metals to rally pretty hard and do pretty well going forward. We're going to see continue, I believe, of this bullish behavior. Now, there's other charts that are starting to look like this, that are catching up. And We'll get to the glittering gold facts at the end of the video, but I'm going to have to inject this discussion now because this is pertinent news. I know some people don't care for it. It's part of the discussion. Regardless of our ideological position, I agree wholeheartedly with a tremendous amount of the viewpoints and the things that Peter Schiff talks about. I've followed his discussions, his writings, his articles, his interviews for years. And I myself was a staunch opponent in many ways to Bitcoin when it first came on the scene. However, there were parts of me that was friendly, I guess you could say. I cheered on the fact that Bitcoin was threatening the monopoly of currency issuance and the monopoly the central banks hold. I don't subscribe to the belief that it's a conspiracy, that it's hijacked or controlled by central banks. I do think it's independent coded, and I think that based on the way it was invented, which I'll talk about in a moment, that it's not tied to some of the conspiracies some people link it to. But real quick, Rush Pabst throws down a super chat again, so we're going to address it. He says, when do we get a prepping with Junius link to your Berkey water filters? Apparently there is a vacuum in the market for humble water filter merchants. Yeah, Berkey water filters are solid. I would definitely support anyone who's looking at getting a way to have pure water, getting a Berkey. We could do that in the future. I think we could do some more prepping like videos and discuss some of those things. I appreciate the interest in that. Clean water is a must. It is a must. Now we're going to continue on here because the news that I want to discuss is this little sleeping giant. A lot of people mocked it for years, and I shared with people from the beginning. The interest that I had was based on research not done by myself but by others, but when I ended up looking at it, it was very appealing. And it made sense. And I never pressured or urged anyone. I never shilled coins or told people that this is what they should do. I haven't even done a whole lot of videos on crypto. But as it made more and more sidelines into the discussion of economics, of currency, and became somewhat center stage in the type of material that we cover, it became incumbent upon this channel to discuss it. And I think if you're one of those people that is so entrenched in certain things and ideas for no other reason than your own personal beliefs, however they might come about, however they might have originated, I do think it's good to observe certain information, to digest it, to research things, and perhaps approach things sometimes from a different angle and think about it perhaps somewhat differently. You're not going to go to hell because you dabbled in crypto. If anything, you might end up turning a little bit of a coin that you can convert into precious metals later on. And I'm going to use a couple of examples here that might raise the hairs on the back of your neck. A lot of times people, and I use this example a lot now, and again, I wasn't one of the people that got in very early. I screwed up quite a bit. I made some pretty big mistakes when it came to Bitcoin because I remember the day it was born. I remember looking into it. I remember initially trying to purchase some. Talking about the year it came out. I had friends try to convince me of it and show me how to acquire some at times. I ended up losing just a little bit of it. I ended up rescuing some that I had lost at one point. And thanks to Paladin Stacker, I kind of did a little bit more investigating, and he helped share enough information with me to show me that, look, this is happening. This is coming. This is going to become part of the mainstream financial language and part of the infrastructure and bedrock of the way finances moves, whether it's stocks, commodities, the indexes on the main Wall Street market, and every fiat currency out there, as well as precious metals. A lot of these things are going to find themselves landing on blockchain, whether you send or receive money, when you are paid, when you go to the grocery store, if you swipe a debit card or you use Apple Pay, if you use any forms of transferring money to or from yourself, it's at some point going to land in what's considered to be a blockchain technology. That's coming. It's inevitable. We're seeing that. The velocity in which this is going in that direction, the momentum is unstoppable. Us protesting it is not going to change the direction or the momentum of this. It's inevitable. It's not going to work. Us not participating in it, if anything, could lead to detrimental effects for those in that type of a camp or that type of ideological entrenchment. You can own gold. You can own silver. You can own a lot of both. I even differ on my views of people's silver acquisitions at times.
Can I say something about the next donation from Paladin Stacker?
Yes.
I said it earlier in the chat, but I feel like I should say it live. I've never heard two grown men giggle like schoolgirls on the telephone.
Yeah.
Like I did earlier today.
We were pretty happy. Me and Paladin.
Like, legit.
Thanks, Paladin,
giggling.
for the... I forgot. I didn't even mention him. Paladin just threw down a little super chat, and he's a friend of mine. XRP equals global bridge currency. Thanks, Paladin. I appreciate it. Yes, and I agree. He and I go way back, and you're not going to meet a bigger gold bug and a more anti-fiat guy than Paladin. And he's kind of a perfect example. Very rational, very smart, very intelligent, educated, accomplished guy. I'm going to throw some props his way. A very good man. And a strong man of faith as well. And I count him as a good friend. He's one of those people I can call up any time of day. He's there for me. He's helped me out in the past. He's thrown favors. He's a good man. And he's also the one who kind of showed me the logic behind what you would say is this cryptocurrency that we're looking at right now. And he's the one that basically exposed to me my own beliefs where, banks always win, right? So he did a lot of research, and that's how we landed on XRP years ago. Even though some people think it's the banker's coin and it's trash, that's kind of the reason we looked at it, because of the infrastructure they were setting up, the fact that they were the banker coin. So it was kind of like throwing a bet, and I hate to use this term, but the central banks, when they bet on both sides of a war and they come out winning either way it goes. I believe if you're buying gold and silver, you're betting on the one side of absolute currency debasement and a reset to where currencies are erased and maybe revalued at some later date. However, then, if you're betting on certain cryptos, you might be betting on an outcome that's similar to that, where perhaps fiat currencies change in the form of and go into a different realm when it comes to digital.
I think Belang brings up a good point.
He always brings up a good point because Belang's pretty smart. Because crypto's not going to replace gold. I agree. It's not. Absolutely not. Nothing can. Like some crypto purists insist, it might do well, but gold is not going away. Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
I think that's what people don't understand when you talk about crypto on your channel.
They don't understand. They
think you're abandoning gold.
Yeah. It's not black and white. I'm a very... I don't know how to put this. It's different. You can diverse in the fact that, let's put it this way. We're waging a war, ladies and gentlemen. We're at war. We're at war with devaluing and debasing currencies, potential hyperinflation or massive inflation, a major economic storm, an economic reset. Now, if you're going into an unknown combat zone, an unknown battlefield with unknown numbers of enemy and types, with unknown terrain, you might want to equip yourself with various types of tools. Now, I look at gold as the ultimate 308 bolt-action scout rifle. It's the do-all-purpose, end-of-the-world metal. It's money. It's the only source. It's the real thing. It's like if the one thing you had to have, it's the one you want, you got. So I'm going to sling that. I'm carrying that bolt-action 308 gold into the battle space. But guess what? I'm also going to probably carry a Glock 19. That's my silver, just in case for some close quarter, smaller encroachments or engagements. I'm going to have that with me as well. And I look at crypto more as like, maybe you could call it a long-term precision rifle, or maybe it's your squad-operated machine gun, or maybe it's your grenade launcher. All I'm saying is it's another tool, another weapon that you might be able to equip yourself when venturing into this economic battle space that we're all going into kind of together. it's not, you don't have to choose just one. You don't have to pick just one. And you don't have to look at it like if you're doing one, you're abandoning the other, or you're violating some type of a fundamental moral ground. I don't believe there is a moral component to the purchasing or selling or dealings with cryptocurrency. Yeah, it's risky for some, especially with some of the trash coins out there, but I do believe that there is going to be projects in this technology front that exist, that are part of this blockchain technology, this Internet 2.0, that are going to survive and prevail and change the economic landscape and the world of finance as we know it internationally when it comes to sending and receiving payments. Now, there was a time when the Spanish 8 reals silver, now I know that's silver, was essentially the one world currency. We've explained that time and again. If you ever want to research it, there's videos on it. But the Spanish 8 reals coin was in the hulls of ships, and it was used, transferred to purchase goods and services around the world on every single continent for almost 200 years. It was legal tender in the United States until the 1850s. The US dollar was based on it. You could exchange, and it was actually circulating and competing alongside US currencies at the same time. It was a one world currency because it had all of the attributes required to serve as such. It was recognizable, divisible. People knew its weight, its content, its purity, and so on. Now, contracts were even written back then in ledgers for ships and goods that various from different countries for the different weights of gold and silver that were put into those ships. And even the gold coins of the time, all of them varied a little bit in size and weight, but most were pretty commonly in that tenth and quarter ounce weight range. And so you essentially could say that gold, regardless of the imagery that was struck on the coin, served as almost a one world gold currency for hundreds of years. Now, for the ease of commerce today, if I'm purchasing or paying for goods and services internationally via my phone, these are finding their way in that, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, with the stock markets and such. And I know it really is too much information to go over quickly here. And the reason I brought this up, again, it's extemporaneous, was the news that's hitting currently in the last 48 hours. The market cap for some of these has exploded. Now, if you remember, just the other day, it was sitting around 300 billion. We talked about market cap. The market cap for crypto, all of them, is now 536 billion. So over 236 billion, and I believe the market cap total was about 80 billion back in March. You're talking about hundreds upon hundreds of billions pouring into this crypto world now. Now, the market cap for XRP exploded. I believe the other day it was sitting at 11 or 12. Paladin, you might want to correct me and bring up your charts because you're usually handy and quick with the numbers on this kind of stuff. But we're sitting here now, market cap's at 20 billion. So we saw about $9 billion flow into XRP, $9 billion. And again, the market cap for all of these is still quite small. You look at the market cap for the Dow sitting at 29 trillion. So we're not even touching a fraction of that percentage. But 20 billion now for this. It was up 63% here in 7 days. Again, I mentioned it's about 100% from the March lows, which were sitting around 11 to 15 cents. 24 hours are up 30%. Earlier today, it was up around 40%. It peaked at around 49 cents. But it's making significant moves, and there's reasons for that. A lot of reasons for that. These guys have non-disclosure agreements, so not all of it's public information. But there is moves, there's things taking place with some of the biggest financial institutions and largest banks in the world. On-demand liquidity, the corridors opening up between Mexico and in Asia. You've got the Korean exchanges, the Japanese exchanges, things flowing between the United States and Europe. A lot of money changing hands, finding itself locked in on blockchain and flowing around the world. So it is happening. And every day more and more wallets are opening up, and it's becoming easier for people to do it. So as more people are exposed, as it becomes easier, it's getting more and more involved with just the public domain, public commerce. At one point, there was a very small fraction of people. I mean, I would say less than 0.1% of the population in this country had any exposure to it. And even then, it's still probably not even 1% yet. It's growing very slowly. But again, it's becoming easier, and as it attracts more and more wealth, the valuations, because all of these are fixed, and the amount of circulation is going to increase and has been increasing. And of course, the way free markets work, the utility, the cost, the speeds, all of those things are going to vet and sort out the survivors. They're going to sort out the survivors. There's only going to be probably, I mean, it depends who you listen to or read, but about 90% of these are going to be wiped out. You know, all the trash coins that you don't really hear about or care about. The big ones that are making the deals, the ones that are meeting with the Fed, the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, the European Union, the one that's meeting with Christine Lagarde, the one that attends all the major functions with the financial heads of state, those are the ones that are likely going to prevail and survive, and they're already making those grounds. It's happening. XRP happens to be the one that's kind of playing by their rules, with regulations, working with the banks, with these institutions. So yes, I do think, and I've thought the entire time that that's going to be one of the main survivors. Yeah, it's been a sleeper. It's gotten a lot of heck from a lot of people, but it's doing quite well.
I've got a question here from Rush.
What's the question from Rush?
And he'd like to know, where do Americans invest as this crypto bull run ends? Physical metals, commodities?
I think having an exit plan is a very good idea, and that's something that I've discussed with Paladin at length. Having an exit plan. I think one of them is, if you've looked around, a lot of the major bullion dealers take cryptocurrencies as payment. You can go on JM Bullion, SD Bullion, APMEX and such, and wire them crypto payments for gold delivery. So that's an option. People have bought land and other things with them. I think there's going to come a point where you're going to be able to deposit some of these in major financial institutions. I mean, Kraken itself, which is a major exchange, just got banking licensure in Wyoming. One of the senator that was just elected is very friendly towards the crypto world, so it looks like there's going to be some things taking place there in the Senate as far as bills and her discussions. I think, again, we're in the very beginning stages of all of this still. We were very early back in 2017 and 18, probably very early. And it looks like there is another up leg coming. I mean, just today, in the last 48 hours, was more volume and more velocity and increase in percentage gains than at any point we ever saw during the mad explosion of 2017. Where we saw some of these do 11,000%, 30,000% runs. So when you see these days like today, 30%, and then, day on day, it's very likely it's going to continue. I mean, again, it is risky because some of these can retreat rather quickly. Some of them can tank rather quickly and then return in a matter of no time. So, I've always looked at it as just kind of a buy and hold when the prices were down, and just kind of waiting it out and seeing where it goes in the long term as kind of a side bet, just kind of an insurance policy in case it works out. Because again, I want to get back to what I was going to tell you guys earlier. Had I foregone my bias and my little ideological position that I was in, where I kind of thought like some people do, and a lot of it was actually my own handicap. It was confusing and hard for me, and I didn't want to put in the effort or work to learn how to navigate the terrain that was required to learn and educate myself on how to acquire and use these. So that was one of my main reasons, my main handicaps, as well as some other things. But had I foregone that and sold 1 ounce of silver, this is going to blow some minds, in 2011. You can do the math, it's very simple. Had I just taken 1 ounce of silver and sold it for Bitcoin in 2011, it would equal over $30,600,000 today. It sounds staggering, it sounds unbelievable. If you told somebody that back then, they wouldn't have believed you. They would have called you mad They would have said you're insane. Most people would think that's insane. And now that's not fake. It's not a dream. It's not it's a real mathematical equation. There are people that did similar things. There's people that it worked out very well for. But just think of that for a moment. Had I let go of that, I mean, I did read about and educate myself on what Bitcoin was back then. Of course, back then it was really the only one. I was a proponent in the fact, again, like I've said repeatedly, even since my first video discussing Bitcoin, I was very happy to see something challenging the central banks. I liked the roots in anarcho-capitalism that it held, that it was challenging the fiat empire, that it was threatening the central banks, that it was threatening the currencies that were out there, and trying to create some type of a unit of exchange for the people that was outside of the control of government. I loved that. I loved that something was outside of the control of government, and I really liked seeing how much governments reacted, how much they hated it. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, kind of a thing. You know, it was like, wow, they really hate this thing. They came at it with everything they had, and they couldn't squash it. No matter how much negative news they gave it, and no matter how many quote experts on the financial network slammed it, it just found its way, and it did its way. And again, it wouldn't have taken much. You know, 1 ounce of silver put into Bitcoin again would be worth $30,600,000 today, and that's real money. That's money that I could use. Right, I definitely could use that right now. I could get Mrs. Maltby her surgery. We could do all kinds of.
Yay, surgery!
Yeah, I could get you surgery with it. They could cut you up and do all little things to you to help make you feel better, help cure her illness. I could buy a little cabin in the woods on some land and several monster boxes of gold, and you'd never hear from me again.
And more kitties.
Carlos Danger says Dave Ramsey hates crypto. And if that's true, well, I'm sure it is. I can't imagine what he said about it. That's all the more reason for me to like it. Again, you know, if Dave Ramsey hates gold and hates crypto, that should tell you something. If he hates it, it's probably not that bad of an idea. The only good thing he ever hits a nail on the head with is being debt-free.
So William Birkenrode threw down a little fact here, and it actually reminds me of a story within my family. But it says, in World War II, British airmen, and in Vietnam, American pilots had a gold sovereign or a $10 gold eagle, respectively, in case they had to survive when shot down.
Yes.
So my grandfather survived the gulags because he gave his gold watch to a Soviet guard.
And that's why he lived, because he had gold. He got
gold.
out of the gulag,
Yeah.
and the guy gave him more food, right? The guard.
Correct. He gave him more
He
gold.
was able to eat more in the gulag.
He traded his gold watch
for food.
and he was snuck more food that he also shared with one of his buddies that he made it out of the gulag with as a result.
They didn't starve to death because
So yeah, his fact sort of reminded me of that.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, gold, again, I'm never going to take away from it. It's the foundations of this channel. Moving forward, though, I think that this is something I think worth looking at, and I agree with Belang. He does say that this is some of the charts right now. He's seeing a reminiscent of silver in 2011 when it exploded. I do agree a little bit. However, I think it's different, being that this is what I would think and believe is, I think it's in its incipient stage still. I think this is something that's still a burgeoning technology. I think blockchain's still finding its legs, and with that, there's going to be volatility, of course, just like silver's, absolutely volatile all the time, it seems like. But I think until it really stabilizes and finds its regularity, and if you want to use the word homeostasis, its balance in the economy of the world, there's going to be volatility. There's going to be some casualties. You're going to see a lot of these drop off, a lot of them get annihilated. But over time, there's going to be survivors that are utilized, and they are going to find some type of a use case, which they do have. Many of these, that's the thing, that's the whole selling point. They have a phenomenal use case when it comes to the speed of transferring money from one end of the world to the other. and security. I mean, there's no question that blockchain creates a far more secure way to utilize and send digital representations of wealth, of units of exchange. So in that regard, the use case, the applications of them as currencies, again, they're not money. I believe they're currencies, just like the currencies we see out there floating around. However, there are some that are linked to precious metals, which is phenomenal. Now, when you look at the performance of them over the year, again, they're doing a lot better than any of the major indexes. They're doing better than NASDAQ and such. But the volume, again, I want to look at the volume for these, is already reaching all-time highs almost. We're almost getting close to the volume. However, the prices aren't really there. The prices are not at the all-time highs. However, the volume in how much money is flowing in and out of these and being traded every day is indeed reaching some of the all-time highs like we saw years ago. So that's that. Just wanted to touch on that, talk about that today. Again, there's a lot of movements taking place there, a lot of people moving money into these to get out of fiat. There's things in the pipeline coming down the line. I think a lot of this movement we're seeing with XRP is due to this flare spark, this drop, this fork, where there's another token that's going to be issued at 1-to-1 for anyone who holds XRP. So I do think that's a huge motivating thing right now. And that's something that wasn't in the news a year ago even. No one really knew about it until this year. That's going to add an incredible amount of incentive for people to take positions, knowing that there's this new Ethereum type token that's going to be somewhat married to XRP. And if you're in the right exchanges, one of them is called Uphold. If you have an Uphold account and you transfer your XRP into that account, on December 12th, they will be issuing 1-to-1. For every XRP that person owns, they will be getting this new smart contract token. And I don't know, that could be a good thing. It looks like Belang's going to bed. Oh man, good night, old man. Good night, Belang. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being in the comments. Always appreciate seeing you and having you in the conversation, sharing your wisdom.
Did you know that gold watch secured my presence on this planet?
That gold watch. So because of a gold watch, you exist.
Yes.
That's another reason to love gold, ladies and gentlemen. Without a gold watch, we wouldn't have the lovely and beautiful Mrs. Maltby. That's good to know. Now, Belang, you're leaving, and now I'm just getting to the best part, the gold part. We're going to get into the gold talk now. We'll move on.
Just a little interjection note here. There was talk about a lot of guns and politics and things in the live chat. Google moderators crawl this. In fact, Rolf was silenced the other day. Just a reminder, my backup channel exists for this reason. Subscribe to that after this live.
Yes, we have a backup channel just in case, because you never know what happens to a YouTube channel. They get shut down or eliminated, disappeared. So if you can, down below you'll see a link. There will be a link to Mrs. Maltby's, the backup channel for us, so you can go find that. And she's put some beautiful, lovely little videos on there. Now this is a slideshow. This is kind of just for fun, entertainment purposes, but it actually will spurn some good, or spawn, I should say, some good conversation on gold. I came across this the other day, just flipped through it. Some of it's things we already know. Some of it's real trivial, kind of elementary little facts, but it's a fun little show on the world of gold. Now, we're going to click through them. We're not going to sit on all of the slides because not all of them are things that I really care to spend any length of time discussing. But let's just click through them and talk about them real quick. Buying gold can set you back, as many of you know, quite a bit. From 40 pounds for a gram of 995 pure gold to 408,000 British pounds for a market bar, which is 400 ounces of gold. And there you can see some 1,000-gram kilo bars right there. Gold doesn't age, as many of you know. It's been around forever. This is one of the things we always talk about. When you find gold, it still has purchasing power. No matter what empire, no matter what era or epoch it came from, it is still money and still holds that wealth in it, which is amazing. Nothing can compare to gold in this regard. Nothing. It'll be here in 5,000 years. This same coin that's already thousands of years old will hold value again 5,000 years from now. It's the noble metal because it does not corrupt it by other things. Ross Norman, CEO at London gold dealer Sharps Pixley, says, gold doesn't tarnish. If you dug it out of the ground, it looks identical to the way it did 2,000 or 3,000 years ago before it went into the ground. Same as if it's in a shipwreck. The ocean doesn't tarnish or corrupt it at all, whereas even silver will tarnish and corrode when sitting in salt water for a length of time. Now, where did it come from historically? There have been many accounts throughout history as to when or where gold was first found. I truly believe gold has been in the consciousness and physically handled by mankind ever since since the beginning of time. Now, it says here the existence of gold dates back 5,500 years, dating all the way back to Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, around 6,000 BC. That would put us at around 8,000 years ago. So that's why I often refer to it, again, as money for 10,000 years. It's been here that long. It was first found in its natural state in streams all over the world as shining yellow nuggets, and now that's precious currency. But again, since the beginning of time, it has served as money. Now, this is something I learned from this slideshow. I did not know this. You always use bouillon cubes when you're making stews, and you can buy bouillon. I always wonder, why is gold and silver have the word bullion associated with it? So here we go. Let's learn about it. This was news to me. The word bullion was said to have first coined in the Middle Ages and likely derives from the Old French word bouillon. The value of bullion is determined by the value of its precious metal content, which is defined by its purity and mass. And it's because they boiled it, I believe. To boil. It meant to boil. So they would boil the gold to refine it. Apparently, gold has its own fingerprint. As with human beings, gold has a fingerprint, which means it would be possible to identify or trace it back to its original mine if you knew the combination of elements. But because they oftentimes melt gold down and mix it with others, that's difficult. Unfortunately, the mining process of gold sees all gold and other metals mixed together before being cast, so you're unable to trace it back to the original mining source. And this adds an air of mystery to gold. And that brings up a point that I often entertain myself with in handling old gold, specifically British sovereigns. When I looked back when you think about the British Empire and their influence and their span on the planet, how much land they covered, every continent essentially, they would acquire gold from other civilizations, probably through ill-gotten means oftentimes, and they would melt them down and strike their coins from it. But when you have gold from any of those European colonial nations, even times the gold might have been melted down from ancient medieval coins back then that might not have had value because they just kept melting down coins and restriking them. So when you have an old British sovereign, there's no telling the story of where that gold has been in time. It really truly could be ancient gold in that modern or more modern, newer coin. It could have been melted and restruck several times before it came to be found in the British sovereign or whatever gold coin you currently hold. I've always found that to be just an interesting thought when holding an old gold coin. Where did all of this gold that's in this one coin come from? What's the story behind it? And you'll never know. No one will ever know. Physics Hypernova says, I think of gold like the axiom of economics. Axioms are basic concepts in math that are used to build up the logical structure. Think of the commutative law of addition, for example. You'll have to explain that one to me, man. Commutative law of addition, for example. That's a PhD talking to us. I'll have to look that up. I appreciate the comment, Physics Hypernova. That sounds good. Yeah, gold it's fundamental. It's ancient. It's subconscious. It's within. It's integral into, I think, all of humanity. Truly, I do. The gold supply chain. The gold supply chain runs from the gold miner in an open pit mine in locations such as South America. Then it goes to refiners. The world's number 1 and number 3 gold refineries are based in Switzerland. We've talked about them. And the process is followed through until the bullions are created. The number 1 nationality buying gold. We've talked about this, the wealth flowing to the east and the Chinese, their influence on gold. The number 1 country buying gold is China, with purchases up by 10% this year. Again, positioning themselves for a very strong economic position on the planet by constantly accumulating a very large position in gold. The second largest national buyer is going off gold. India buys the second largest amount of gold. But Ross Stormer says this is a big story in the world of gold as their sales are down 60%. I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of their wedding season and the current pandemic. India was the world's biggest gold consumer, but the Indian government has chosen to move away from gold investments and is looking towards other assets. And I wonder what those might be for India. Gold versus cash. And of course, the value of gold fluctuates. Or is it the cash that fluctuates, with gold only reacting to it? In the last 10 years, the price of gold has roughly doubled from around 15,624 pounds for a kilogram in 2006 to around 32,892 pounds for a kilogram in October of 2016. Again, it's gone up significantly since then. It's a safe haven. People rush to buy gold in times of financial uncertainty, and it's seen as a safe haven, as we've seen this year. So when you see stories about gold sales increasing, it usually means people are spooked. Or they're just preparing for something that's coming. They don't have to be spooked. I've never bought gold because I was scared. I bought it because I knew something was coming, something was happening, and I wanted to be in a better position to address that. How do gold bullion premiums work? This is a question I've often got as being a gold channel. You know, people always wonder why they can't buy gold for spot, and it gets frustrating to have to explain that, but I understand when people are new to the gold and silver world, the need and the necessity to explain that little principle to them. Bullion premiums is the additional price charged to a bullion product over its spot price. Current price per ounce exchanged on the global commodity markets. Again, those are for very large bars dealt between major financial institutions, as you know. According to visualcapitalist.com, calculating bullion premiums depends on 5 key factors: supply and demand, the volume of bullion offered, or the bid upon it, the bullion seller's objectives, the type of bullion products being sold, and local, national, and economic conditions. Now, when it comes down to the premiums on coinage, the seigniorage charge, as you break gold down into smaller and smaller units, again, you're having to pay for the assaying of these, the weight, the striking of them, all of the delivery costs, the handling. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just you have this giant lump of gold somewhere melted down, and then there's labor and a lot of human effort that goes into being involved with the minting and the final product of a small coin, like a quarter-ounce piece, for example. Gold bars are cheaper than coins, and that makes sense because you're not paying for it to be broken down as much. Larger gold bars, such as a 10-ounce kilogram and 400-ounce bars, can be bought for a smaller fee over the spot price of gold, and I just explained pretty much why that is. Essentially, you're buying it in bulk, and the premium is reduced. If you're buying large bars, you're not paying for the seigniorage charge. And again, this is just reiterating the same fact. Why is the premium higher on small coins? I think we just covered why that is. But this is a beautiful case to look at because there's some gorgeous coins in this case. You've got a buffalo, you got a Krugerrand, a maple leaf, eagle, panda. You got some Australian kangaroos and nuggets in there. Looks like a Chinese peach, an Austria Philharmonic, a Britannia. Looks like you've got some sovereigns in there on the right side. Yeah, it's a beautiful little case of gold right there, whatever shop that is in. And that right there, that's your escape plan. Again, you want to talk about crypto escape plans? You walk into a place like this when you cash out and you just say, I'll take the case, please. And when he looks at you funny, just say, yes, everything. I'll take everything. Global assets under management. Gold is a bit of a minority sport, making up just 0.5% of global assets under management. Now imagine what's going to happen when that number grows, which it likely will. And we just did that thing recently on market cap. We looked at all of the different market caps for all the different investments and debts around the world. And you saw how small, how minute and minuscule the market cap for gold was compared to everything else. I mean, it's very small. It's only about 7 trillion, I believe. This is the market cap for all gold ever mined since the beginning of time. Very small amount of gold. And then, of course, there's ways to test gold. You can pass electric currents through it to see if it's been messed with, see if it's pure or it's real. There's also the acid tests, which I don't really like to put acid on a coin, so I'm not going to do it. There's the magnet tests, the ping test. You can drop it and hear the ringing sound, the magnet put on the coin, holding it up at 45 degrees. There's also the coin slip. There's different devices you've seen online that are marketed for testing various known bullion pieces that are quite common. Could the Brinks-Matt gold bullion robbery be repeated? In 1983, 6 robbers broke into a warehouse in the Heathrow to steal cash, but discovered 3 tons of gold bullion. So they made away with cash, gold bullion and diamonds worth 79 million pounds in today's currency. Ross said, in the current day and age, it's very difficult to get away with crimes because of vigilance, because of compliance, because of regulation. So if there is anything out there that is untoward, we would know about it and we would spot it. The only crimes that are allowed to be committed now when it comes to the gold market would be the ETF market, selling gold that doesn't exist. How do you spot it, you ask? The Brinks-Matt robbers melted down the gold with bicycle metal to try to disguise it and sell it as scrap. This wouldn't work, as scrap also has a signature. As it's got certain copper contents, Ross said, we know that jewelry scrap looks like when something comes to you that's a gold bar, which is melted down with a bicycle and other stuff, you think, what the hell is this? So gold jewelers, brokers, and professionals will save you from the scammers. I did not know that they melted it down with bikes. What you want to do, this is a little side discussion, is you'd want to start a mining operation somewhere, and you'd want to start, quote, melting your own bars. And I'm not promoting crime or anything. I'm just saying if I happened to be a guy that had a lot of gold that needed to move, in that way, I would move someplace and start kind of a little mining operation in a place that had known mining fields, and just act like I hit it big, and you would start selling your bars that you got out of this, quote, mine. And that would be the only way to kind of cover your tracks a little bit, if that makes any sense. Well, it's stored in vaults all around the world. Everyone stores theirs differently. Some people store it in boxes like this in banks. Everyone has their own beliefs on that. And then you've got nations, central banks that hold their own gold. Again, nations, central banks hold, I believe it's 19% of all of the gold ever mined. But there was an interesting fact in here. We're getting to it in a minute. Over the years, Italy's maintained its level of reserves. To be precise, Italy has 2,451 tons of gold, making up 68% of foreign reserves. Understanding the role gold plays in the central bank's portfolio, the former Bank of Italy governor said the metal was, quote, a reserve of safety, as it gives a good protection against the rise and fall against the dollar. The second largest, and again, this is in 2016, is Germany. And we've covered that. They repatriated a lot of their gold from Paris and New York. This is somewhat dated. They repatriated their gold. Country with the largest reserves, the winner is America. Supposedly, the U.S. has the largest holding of gold in the world, with almost as much gold as the subsequent countries combined. And what's interesting is this number seldom ever changes, 8,133.5 tons, which makes me suspect. And It's interesting that it never changes. It doesn't go up, doesn't go down, it just stays right there. And do you know where the majority of the U.S. gold is held? Well, it's in the next slide. Supposedly, it's in Fort Knox. It's where they put it all after they jacked it from the U.S. citizens in 1933. That's where they put it. Although according to Donald Trump, America does not have the gold, Fort Knox in Kentucky holds the majority of U.S. government gold. The remainder is held at the San Francisco Assay Office, the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the West Point Bullion Depository. In fact, Fort Knox is so important. Here we see Franklin Delano Roosevelt pictured leaving the building after seeing the stacked gold bullion secured in the vaults. Very interesting. Now, one thing that I did cover, and it's not in this article, this is an interesting piece. I might have skipped over it, but I remember it because I read it just last night. Apparently 95%, they believe. It's up for debate because, of course, you have geologists and scientists and all of those that might have different areas of expertise pertaining to this particular subject. How much gold's left on the planet? The belief was that 95% of all of the gold on Earth has already been mined. Now, that was actually news to me. It's kind of shocking. Part of me wants to believe it's true. Part of me wants to think, could they be wrong? Could it be more than that? Could it be less than that? But again, I don't have any information to debate or argue with them. I don't think any of us in the comments have enough information or data to argue one way or the other. But I did read that 95% of the gold available on this planet has already been discovered. If that's true, and there's only 5% of it left that they're slowly going to have to grind their way out to get throughout the future, it makes sense that, there's a very finite amount of gold, and as they debase and devalue currencies, and as gold fulfills and maintains its role as sound money, as the ultimate extinguisher of debt, that its value is going to prevail, and it's going to continue onward for decades and decades to come, especially when you look at the economic conditions that we now find ourselves in. So, anyway, gold facts, huge movements of wealth taking place currently. The economy's doing its thing. But again, I appreciate you guys joining in today's discussion. We got Bill Spencer in from Canada. Hey, Junius, check out YouTube Golden Beard Media. I will have to check that out. Golden Beard Media. I'll Google that. Yes, appreciate all of you joining in today's discussion. If there's any more questions, any more information you'd like to discuss, feel free to throw it down. I don't know how many of you are left in the chat. Maybe just 5 or 6 of you.
There's a good amount.
How many we got? 100. There's 135 of you, looks like, left, or 100 or so left. That's good. Well, that's good. All right. Well, appreciate all of you joining in on today's topic of discussion. Don't forget, please, after the close of this video, to go ahead and subscribe to Mrs. Maltby's channel. Go check it out. There's some...
I think it's funny that people said that you're like Woody and I'm like Jesse. That still cracks
that's right.
me up.
And that's something they don't realize. I think some of these people don't know that for the first time in the history of the channel, there's face reveals. I've just, I give up. I'm not going to hide. I won't hide from you guys. You can see what I look like. You can see that we're real people, that we're not some creeps or some bots. I'm not a...
I'm a creepy girl.
You are creepy. You're a dark little girl. But I'm not, we're not like some algorithm or some deep state operatives or...
Deep state basement dweller?
We're still basement dwellers, according to some, probably.
I guess.
I mean, there you are. You're sitting there right now with your little tinfoil hat on. Just kidding.
Do you remember when I made those for the cats, too?
Yes. One day we were baking. That's a funny story, actually. We could share that picture one day. We were doing something in the kitchen, and I quickly, as a joke, grabbed some tinfoil and fashioned it into a hat. And made myself a tinfoil hat. Just I'd never had one before. I never wore a tinfoil hat. I figured, hey, why not? So I put the tinfoil hat on my head. Immediately felt the relief as it blocked all of the rays that were bombarding me. And Mrs. Maltby made another little one and put it on the kitty. And so me and the kitty sat there, and we both had little tinfoil hats on. It was kind of funny. So, I don't know. Maybe we're just weird, though. But thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and check out the other channel. Don't forget to hit the like. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. YouTube has been bleeding subscribers from me. Lost like 30 or 40 in the last week. I don't know where they go or why. Maybe they leave because they don't like us talking about crypto. Well, tough. That's actually their loss. Yeah, that's that. I think we're going to wrap it up.
What's a Maltby illustration video?
A Maltby illustration video. I don't know. Where is it? Oh, an old school Maltby illustration video. Those are really old. When I'd sit down and draw before I learned how to do screens like this and screen grabs and shots, I would have to do a little camera, and sometimes I would draw my idea on a table, on a piece of paper. I think I did it once before, even in the last year. I might have done a new one. I drew something in front of the camera, and it was just like little charts.
Hold on, I have to respond to this comment from Asul Seraphic. You missed it in the chat, but this is a person who is selling his gold for first edition Pokemon cards.
No, he's joking. He's not
joking.
Surely you don't think I'm as insane as most of the chat for selling my gold for first edition Pokemon cards, right? He is. He's not doing it. He's a joke. He's trolling us. No one did that. Nobody's doing that. I promise you he's not.
You know what? I got good troll radar.
I got this guy's back. He's trolling. There's no one because if he was that dumb, he wouldn't be able to type on a keyboard.
He's a supporter of the channel.
He's a good guy.
He's learned a lot of things.
He's a smart guy, and he's not selling his gold for Pokemon cards. Nobody smart does that.
Yeah.
Okay. I promise you. Come on, Nasul. Tell him you're joking. Come clean. You got him. You got him with your joke. You trolled Mrs. Maltby. I know you're not selling gold for Pokemon cards. No one does that. Liberty Warrior, good to see you, my friend, down under. I hope you're doing well down there in Australia. Pikachu!
Pikachu!
Hey, do me a favor, Liberty Warrior. Again, I've sent you on a mission, my friend. As you occupy probably one of the most beautiful gold-rich lands on the planet, I need you to go walk around the outback with a Minelab 5000 metal detector and start finding gold nuggets. You can do it.
He's not joking. He says Pokemon is the new Bitcoin.
He is joking. He's absolutely trolling everybody. He does not believe that, and he's probably doing it as a funny little analogy for Bitcoin.
You know my favorite Pokemon, and I bet you there's not many people on this channel who know what the hell I'm talking about.
What?
But for us 90s kids in the chats, because there are some.
I never purchased or had
my favorite. Well, my brother and I did.
Okay.
They were even banned at my elementary school. My favorite Pokemon was Ditto.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. Well, it was Ditto.
Pokemon Ditto, huh?
Yeah. That was my favorite one.
That's your favorite Pokemon?
Yeah.
You should get one. Maybe I'll buy you one for Christmas.
I'm good.
I'll buy you a little Pokemon card.
No, I'm okay.
You can use it as a bookmark.
Rolf, I do believe some baseball cards are worth way too much money.
We tried to log off here, but I guess I got to share a story again. Rolf's ready for a Junius story again. When I was a kid, all my friends were into baseball cards. And I kind of caught up with it because I played Little League, so I followed the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants and the Brewers and the Mets, the Yankees, and I had my favorite players. Bill Spencer said, you said Nugget. Check out Golden Beard Media. I got to check that out. I got to write that down.
He's not joking, but
so I had Will Clark, Jose Canseco, Mark McGwire, Kirby Puckett. I even had Mark McGwire's little rookie card. But I used to have to debate them because I was into coins, and I still bought coins back then. I always had my gold and my silver. And I remember some of the... So if you want to go back in time, some of the earliest Junius Maltby debates regarding precious metals, the origins of them were me debating a neighbor kid on what was better, what was more valuable, and what had more staying power, gold and silver coins, or baseball cards. And this is true. I'm not making, there's no reason for me to make this up, but I would debate this kid, his name was Chris, on the values and why my coins were a better idea than baseball cards. So that dates back when I was about 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Gives you an idea how weird I really probably was as a child. And, well, I guess you can almost say it's somehow where the roots of this channel might have even started. Debating baseball cards versus coins. Well, I gotta tune out. We're done. We've gone over an hour now. So everyone's gotta go to bed. Alright. All of you guys, thanks for being part of the channel. Thanks for being in the chat. You're all good people, good friends. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to shut it down. Thank you for being part of tonight's broadcast. And keep stacking. Keep an open mind. Take your positions. And buy your gold and silver. And a little bit of XRP on the side. And if you do hold XRP, I encourage you, please, heed this one little piece of information from me right now. Move your XRP into an Uphold wallet. UPHOLD, Uphold. Bill Spencer, thank you, my friend, for you threw another Canadian $5 down. I saw that up there. Donation. Thank you. Thanks for the super chat, all of you. Everyone who donated, everyone who's part of the super chats this evening, I really appreciate it. Thank you for participating and supporting the channel. You're all good people. Have a good night. Good night, Rolf. Good night, Liberty Warrior. Good night, Jeff, Katie, Carlos, Reckless, Sul. Who am I missing? Physics Hypernova. Good night. Go rest that big brain of yours, my smart friend, my brilliant friend. All right, all of you, have a good night. Go to sleep. Bedtimes are over.